Hello, guys. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Tea Time with Dr. IYABO on a Friday. I know I've been having my tea time on other days other than Sunday lately, but that's because, like I say every time, it depends on when my guests are available, right? So I can only have my tea time when my guests are available. So I reached out to Jeff Khalil because I'm not even sure how I came across his Instagram. I may have been searching for relationship coaches and all of that good stuff, but I reached out. Hi guys, but I reached out to Jeff and he said yes, and I was so happy because I binged on his his content. I was just watching all his videos. I'm like, how can one person be so good with dating and relationship issues and life issues and all of that? But let me see if he's, I will bring him right on and we will start. Okay, I think I see Jeff. So Jeff, please come on, join, let's start. So hi everybody, welcome to Tea Time with Dr. IYABO. Hi Jeff.
Hi, how are you? Good to be on here.
Good. How are you? I was just praising you. I was telling everybody about how I found you. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate your time. I know you're busy. You're a content creator like I am. Yes. And I'm sure you have a busy life outside of that. I'm trying to get my positioning just fine. Tell me where you're at. Which state are you in?
I'm in Michigan. The one that looks like a mitten.
Okay. So is Michigan Eastern time also?
Yes.
Oh, yep. Okay.
Yeah, where are you at?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Ah, good old ATL. Awesome.
Yeah, good old ATL. And ATL is hot now. I'm telling you, we're going up to 100 degrees today.
Yes, us too. I don't know what it is, but we're getting the same heat wave you guys are getting.
Oh my gosh. I usually like walking outside first thing in the morning, but now I can't even walk first thing in the morning because it's way too hot. If by 8 o'clock, it's already in the 90s.
Yes, it's unbelievable. I can't imagine it. And you guys have it all year round.
We do. We basically have like 6 weeks of winter. We have like 6 weeks or 2 months of maybe 40 degrees, and then we're back again, which I don't mind the 70s and 80s. But once it gets to the 90s, Jeff, I don't know how old you are, but I'm a 52-year-old woman and some things are already going on in my body. So I'm not compatible with the heat. But anyway, TMI. But thank you so much for coming on here. The day that I found you, I was looking for relationship coaches, dating coaches to invite to my tea time. And I came across yours and I watched maybe 2 or 3 of your reels. And I'm like, he's so brilliant.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm grateful.
That was my first impression. I'm like, you're so brilliant because you talk about life issues. You talk about relationship, dating issues, marriage issues, self-esteem, self-confidence. So you do it all, which is kind of like what I do as well. And I also talk about business and entrepreneurship. But I love people like you who have platforms like that because, you know, our lives don't exist in compartments. You know, we're all of those things. For us to be able to date right, we have to, you know, be right with our self-confidence, be right with our health and wellness, be right with our self-esteem. Yeah. So thank you for all you do. But could you please say hi to everyone? Because my community would love to get to know you.
Yes. What's up, everyone? So glad to be on here. My name is Jeff. I am, I guess, by short definition, an entrepreneur. I love starting new things that can help solve problems for people. And I guess content creation is just one of those things. I love being able to speak about my experiences, what I've learned and what I'm learning constantly. And I just have a very big passion for people. I have a very deep belief in what people are capable of. And so if I can help remove barriers for you to be able to maximize your life, then that's my biggest honor. So that's what I'm here to do.
That's wonderful. Now, tell me, just because I'm curious and I'm nosy, your last name is an Arabic or Lebanese, or tell me where your last name is from.
You nailed it. It's a Lebanese origin last name. So it's Khalil in American English dialect, but in Arabic dialect it'd be Khalil.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I know
Yep.
that because let me tell you something. I was raised as a Muslim. So I was Muslim
Oh,
from age 0 to 25.
oh my
Yes.
gosh.
Yes, yes. And I read the Quran cover to cover. I was going to Arabic school when I was in Nigeria from until I left really as an adult at the age of 22. I could read Arabic, you know, and I still know a lot of
Wow.
verses in the Islam religion. My parents were both Muslim until they passed away in their 80s. And yeah, half of my siblings are Christian, half are Muslim, but I became Christian with my first marriage, but I've remained Christian. So
Wow,
yeah,
very good. Yes,
yes,
we are so as I'm sure you know, in Lebanon it's split between Muslims, Christians, and in the different variants of those. Our family's all Orthodox Christian. So
okay,
from a
yes,
long time ago, they all came overseas and they've remained as such.
yes,
So,
and
but I have a
yeah,
lot of Muslim friends.
I'm sure. And it's so funny because I met another lady just like you who's Christian, but she's Lebanese. She's
Hmm.
looking to sign up for my coaching, and we had a long chat about it as well. So yeah, yeah,
No
yes.
kidding. Very cool.
Yeah,
Very, very cool.
yes. So today we're going to focus on dating, but if any kind of life questions come up, I'm sure you or I will be able to take them. Now, my first question for you is, Jeff, why are all of us, men and women, why are we so focused on being coupled up with someone? Why is there a human need for being coupled up or being in a relationship? Why is that?
Mm. So my 2 cents on that is I believe men and women or any other type of love and love, right? We are attracted to what makes us different. And we are constantly seeking ways to expand our strengths and diminish our weaknesses. And we often look to other people to help us with those things. And it's a good thing. It's good to have people that sharpen us as, you know, we can sharpen each other as human beings. And so often we do that from an emotional standpoint. There's also the physical need. I mean, the reality is that we all have physical needs of intimacy, and with a partner that is significantly more fulfilling than the ways that you can do that on your own. And so having that ability to share that in that physical intimacy, whether it's as small as a hug or as large as full, you know, sexual energy, then that is a really powerful thing. And I think lastly is we want to be on an adventure of some sort. Like we look at our lives as a journey, and a journey is a lot more fun when you're with somebody than it is when you're by yourself. And so having that ability to share things with people is really special. So like I'm a big proponent on alone time. I can travel the world if I really wanted to by myself. However, it's much more fulfilling if I get to share that with my spouse or with my family or with even a friend, to be able to say, this is what we're doing together. And knowing that you and I could be looking at the same thing and sharing a different perspective on what that is, that adds for fulfillment in your life. So I think the coupling is a really powerful way to actually create a more enhanced life. And we're always seeking ways to make it that way.
Wonderful, wonderful. And full disclosure, guys, I sent Jeff a message yesterday and I said, would you like the questions beforehand? Or would you just like to speak organically? And Jeff said, let's just speak organically. So if you
Let's
think
get
that we had
raw.
practiced this and we had rehearsed, no, everything I'm asking him, he had no idea. So Jeff, I love that answer, but I do want to ask you something. I wrote it down. You said we like to couple up and being in relationships so that we can diminish our weaknesses and
Mm-hmm.
enhance our strength. So I believe that totally, but I think that makes people settle for the wrong person because we're so focused on needing somebody to help us strengthen who we are or to help us really validate who we are, and we're not doing it on our own. It tends to make us choose the wrong person because
Right.
we're in such a hurry to want to enhance our strengths, but not by ourselves.
Right. That's a really good point. I think that goes with, I think that statement has to have an and coupled with it. And that and is, if you don't understand who you are to your core, you will almost always discover the wrong person. And the reason is because in order for things to be consistent and be able to be full, the things at the root have to align. And those are your core values. But if you don't have an idea of what your core values are as an individual, if you don't know what you care about, what you need, and what you want, you can't communicate it. And if you can't communicate it, you can't align on it. And then it just ends in disaster. So I think that really, ultimately, we need to stop and get away from this perspective of a partner or a person needs to complete us. Very different than complement us. And it's complement with an E, not an I. Complement with an E is adding. It's accenting. It's not filling. It's not praise and or any of those things. It's adding value to your heart and to your life. So big difference on that. And I really believe that we need to be starting to talk about that more.
How do we begin to learn who we are to the core? Because I'm not really sure when that happened for me, but I don't think I think I knew who I was before I got married the first time, because I was 25 when I got married the first time. I think I knew, and I keep saying I think because I was 25. I think I knew who I was, but I don't think I really began to understand who I really was until my mid to late 30s. But I was already married then, and I was already getting ready to be divorced. So tell us about that. How all the 20-something-year-olds on this live and who are going to watch the replay, if there's an 18 or 21-year-old on here, can you give them 1 or 2 tips to how they can start learning, who they are to the core?
Yes. Well, I'm actually going to lead, if you don't mind, with a question for you is, what about your divorce did you find differently about yourself that allowed you to know who you were more? What did you do differently, do you think?
After the divorce or during the divorce?
When you said a minute ago, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you found that you were full, you thought you may have known who you were at 25, but you were certain you knew who you were at 30-ish time.
Yes.
And that was right around the time you were getting divorced. Am I correct?
Yes. Around, my mid-30s to late 30s is when I really knew who I was.
Do you remember anything you were doing differently during that time that you were not doing before?
Oh, many things. Yeah, many things. At that point, I had realized that I didn't need to run everything by my ex-husband, that I could make my own decisions.
So trusting yourself more?
Yeah, I was trusting myself more. I was starting to realize that marriage didn't mean that you had to discuss and ask for permission for everything. That was a big one for me. I started to realize that, okay, I can just tell him I'm doing something rather than asking, should I do it? Should we do it? Should the family do it? So I think in summary, I started to really discover my strength as an independent woman who was in a marriage, but, I started to realize that I was starting to really lose my independence and I needed to get it back.
Okay. So you just nailed it. And this is perfect. So I think that you stopped asking another person and started asking yourself.
Yes.
And that is the impetus right there. If you want to get to know a person, you ask them questions, you ask them their thoughts and feelings and opinions about things, whether that's permission or whether that's just, do I want the salad or the burger? And there's people that ask people questions for every decision they make. But then you don't really know what decision you want to make because they're making it for you. So you want to get to know others, you ask them questions. You want to understand something in university, you ask the professor questions. You want to understand you more, you need to ask yourself questions and ask yourself why, How? What? When? Why am I feeling this way? What made me feel this way? How did I get to this state of mind? You know, all these different things can culminate to your soul and your heart, and everything has a root. And the further down you ask yourself why, the clearer that becomes. And that's what we call self-reflection. And it heightens your self-awareness. So that's how I would suggest getting to know you is when you experience something in your life, ask yourself why. And when you're experiencing things from other people, ask them yourself how it made you feel, and then ask yourself why.
So self-reflection. So for
essential.
For the younger folks on here, 18, 21, 23, 24, you know, or you've been, you know, married and divorced like me and you're starting over, self-reflection. You guys heard what Jeff said. We don't have much. I'm not going to repeat everything because there are a ton of questions coming up. And I do want to tell everyone, I forgot to mention in the beginning, can you please type your questions in the question box? Because now I have to scroll up and down to look for your questions. So please type them in the question box so I can get them. The first question that came up was, Jeff, are you single? So you can answer
I am not single. I am married for now coming on 6 years. And I've been with my now wife for almost 9. And we have 2 kids together.
Sorry, guys. He's happily married. Happily married. Yeah. And I'm happily married too. So for those guys out there who are the ones who think I'm 35, no, I'm 52. And I have 4 kids. I have 2 daughters who are 24 and 18. Probably my older daughter is the age of some of you who come to my DM. So yes, stop it, because I'm old enough to be your grandma. Okay, some of the questions, yeah, because you know, it's ridiculous, right? Okay, my question is, are you single? Okay, so the first question was, how do you ever get over the breakdown of a past relationship?
Whew. So how do you move forward, essentially?
Yes, how do you move forward? Yeah, how do you get over it? How do you move forward, heal, and just get over it?
It's easier said than done. Takes a lot of work. And it takes time. But here's the kicker. Time does heal all wounds. However, action makes time move toward us instead of us chasing it. So
say that again. Say that again.
Taking action allows time to move towards you instead of you chasing it and waiting.
I love it. I love it.
So, thank you. So where you're going with this and how to move past a relationship in general, something that hurts, right? We have memories. We have good memories. That's challenging to put behind. We have some probably poor memories, obviously, if it ended in a breakup. We have a lot of time of blaming ourselves and blaming the other person. So you're rattling with all these things. And now with these beautiful phones that I'm sitting in front of, you have every picture ever created from your relationship there, along with all of your different social medias connected. So you have a lot of connection to these people still. But here's the deal. You keeping that connection is going to always keep the wound open. So if there's an opportunity where you don't have kids and you don't have like anything really tying you and it's time to move forward, I truly believe that the best way to close the wound is you have to cut off contact. And maybe it's not forever, but you don't have to be friends with your ex. And I've said this a million times, that being friends with your ex is not a sign of maturity. Knowing how to take care of yourself, though, is. And where it comes to this is having the ability to, because when we lose a relationship that we identify so much of ourselves in, I find that so many of us have attached ourselves to another person's identity. Well, so when they leave, you're shattered. So how do you fix that is you need to start going to work on yourself and rebuilding that self-worth. That's number one. Number two is you have to move to a forgiveness process. And that's not like just forgive. That's a process. That's acknowledgement. That's identification. And then acknowledgement, and then validation. And then it's acceptance, and then it's a path forward. That is a process of forgiveness. That's like 5 steps. And that's not just forgiving them, that's forgiving you, and then asking for forgiveness, which a lot of people don't do. For those of you that cringe at the word forgiveness, it literally means, in the Greek definition, which is where the word comes from, to put behind, to let go. It breaks your shackles. And then the last bit is you take action on the new person that you're becoming. Stop telling yourself your old narrative of your old relationship and telling everybody who will listen. Start telling yourself the person you're becoming and where you're going, because that's who you are now. And so you start focusing on where you're going, you will start moving in that direction. You focus on where you were, you will leave yourself in your past, and you'll be shackled into a prison. So that's how you move forward.
Jeff, how did you become so wise?
I believe okay, there's a few things. I can't take full credit for any of this. I truly believe this is what I'm meant to do from God.
It's your purpose.
So it is my purpose. I believe.
Yes.
And I think God has everything to do with that. Hands down. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm saying. I like black out, and it's not like I'm having a spiritual experience. But I'm like, how did I connect that? And I can't take credit for that. That'd be wrong. But then more of a non-spiritual way is, I believe that my greatest strength is self-awareness. If I were to nail what my strength is, it's being able to be self-aware and simplify complex things. So that is where I draw my skill set from. And then I always just joke, it's because I'm really not that smart. And so I need things simply to understand them. And it's true. I use metaphors a lot, and I use like movies and literature, and I just read a lot. And then lastly is how I was raised. I'm very blessed that I had a really strong example of parenthood. And I know not everyone has that. And so if I can help exemplify what that might look like to people, maybe they will start redefining what a healthy relationship and a healthy life looks like. So that's really what it is.
You're a huge inspiration. Huge.
Thank you.
Huge inspiration. You're going to do fantastic things. You haven't even started.
Thank you.
Honestly, you haven't even started, because I think we're very similar.
I can feel that.
I was raised in a very, very positive family. My dad was my hero. My dad was my business coach. He was everything to me. My dad helped me with my divorce. My mom was wonderful. So I was born in a very good, stable family. But I also believe that everything I'm doing today, I was born to do. So every time I pray in the morning, I pray for God to bring me towards people that will really amplify my message of delivering whatever it is. All of these things that God has told me to go out there and deliver. It's like when I wrote my book, I wrote 60,000 plus words in 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yes, and then at the end of that, I wrote another book of about, I don't remember, was it 50 or 70,000 words? At the end of that, behind that, for 2 months. So basically, I wrote 2 books in about 3 months or less. And I'm telling you, it was like a spiritual download. I was not part of that, writing that book. I guess it was God just downloading into me, because I would be in the shower, I would be walking, and I would be getting content for the book. So I had to ask you that, how did you become so wise? And it's funny, you said you simplify life. I have actually been accused many times. I have blocked I have blocked so many people on social media who come to my comments, disrespect me, and say, how dare you simplify such messages so much? Why do you simplify life so much? It's really not that simple.
Sure it is.
And if they only stopped at that and they didn't put disrespectful words, I would engage them, but they would make it. And I'm thinking, no wonder there's so much trouble in the world, because people make a simple problem into a complex problem. And they actually fight with you because you are simplifying life. What a shame.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, what a
100%.
shame. What a shame. You said a few things I want to talk about. I'm 100% of the belief that your ex cannot be your friend. I'm not saying they become your enemies, but some people
Sure.
break off. You know, they break up with their boyfriends, girlfriends, or even their husbands, wives, and they still want to be best friends for them. And I tell them, you're deceiving yourself. You're not
That's
yet healed.
Yes. That's like leaving a job and still working for the old company while you're going to look for a new one. No, like you left the job, you're done, move on to the next one. It doesn't make sense, right? And you can't live in two places at once. Your ex is your past. That means you can't live in your present, which means you cannot create your future. And we don't understand that at first because we think we need to have this sense of maturity, but in reality, it's a facade. The X is safety, the X is comfort, the X is what you know. And don't get me wrong, like I'm saying this like it's easy. It's not. That's an old relationship that you're emotionally attached to, that you have shared beautiful things with. It's hard to move on from that. So I'm not even saying it has to be forever, but I like a good 90 days cleanse to heal as you do the work. So be it.
I'm glad that we're talking about this because many women, again, because of my work is with women, I don't work with men, but I know that many women do this. They deceive themselves. They're just friendly with their ex, but I tell them, first of all, you're not only going to keep destroying yourself emotionally, but you're also going to ruin every relationship you go into because you're still emotionally attached to this man. You're saying he's just your friend, but he's more than a friend in your emotions. And the next man you meet, if he's a high quality, high value man, he's not going to put up with that either.
No chance.
Yeah.
No chance.
No chance. So, and then I also love how you talk about action with everything. I believe that too, that a lot of people stay stuck, they stay depressed, they stay dejected because they're actually not active in their own lives.
Yep.
You know, once you become active in your own life, I'm not talking about your husband's life, okay, women, it's not about what you're doing for your husband or doing for your kids. You know, what are you doing in your life? What action are you making in your life, right? I love that. Next
100%.
question. Yeah, next question so that we can get, we're not going to be able to take all the questions, guys, but we'll take as many as we can. Caroline says, is it true that one loses an interest after having sex?
It depends. And that depends on what is trying to be happened in the relationship. What is that person's end goal? And if sex is the goal and that person achieves that from you, loses of interest. I've hit my goal, on to the next goal. If marriage is the goal, or if a long-term relationship is the goal, sex enhances that. So sex in its right context, which I believe is in marriage personally. However, I recognize that not everyone believes that. And so if the other caveat is a long-term relationship, okay. Sex in its right context allows for an increase of intimacy, both emotionally and spiritually and physically. It should increase the relationship, not make someone lose interest. So that is why it's so important to recognize who you are seeing, who you are dating, and what their intentions are. Because if their end goal is just to have sex with you, yes, once sex happens, it's done. They've hit it.
True. So having said that, just as a secondary question to what she asked, then can you give women like an idea of when they should have sex? Because I get this question a lot and I don't, I answer it in many different ways because they're like, so if we start dating him today and when should we, is it best to wait till marriage? And I said, if you can, that's best.
Yes.
That is best.
Rule of thumb.
That is best, but we know most people don't do that these days. So for the ones who can't or don't want to, when is best?
Okay, so I have to go on the marriage route for 1 second, because there's a reason why. It's not just because some religious leader told you.
Yeah.
We have to talk about this very practically for a moment. What does sex do? What does the literal act of sex do physically? It releases a hormone in your brain at a high clip called oxytocin. Oxytocin is called the love hormone. It literally bonds you completely together. When you experience that release, you are forever bonded to connecting that experience to that person, which is why when you have sex, ending a relationship is about 100 times harder because it's equivalent to the addiction of cocaine. It's about 100 times harder than it is if you didn't. Wow. So this is not just a religious figure telling you this. It is because practically what our brains literally do connects you. So there's my little plug on why marriage is important.
Yes.
Second, if you were to think about this, and you're probably having such a hard time, like I would be having a terrible time if somebody was asking me this all the time, because my first thing is, well, when do you think it's right for you? Because every single person is really, really different at that point. And it's what are you looking for? What are you gaining from this? Is it just physical pleasure? Okay, then admit that to yourself and then decide. If it's because you want to feel more connected to them, then decide that. And then it's are they on the same page as you? See, another thing marriage has, or a long-term relationship, is you've had a mutual agreement, whether it's spoken or unspoken. But if you're not in that context and you choose to have sex, let's say a month in or whatever, what is their intention and what are your intentions? What does sex mean for what does sex mean for you versus what does sex mean for them? So truthfully, in my book, I'm a huge advocate for effective, healthy communication. Ask. Like, I want to do this with, and you can be vulnerable. It's just like, hey, I know you want to do this. I really want to too, but I want to also make sure our expectations are aligned so we don't make a mistake, or so we can have an increased intimacy. What from having sex, what are you hoping to get? And from me, this is what I am expecting. And I know that's like not sexy, but like, so what? What's more sexy? You guys being on the same page, or you in a bath of tears after?
Yes.
So like, you know what I mean? Like, choose your pain. Is it the pain of like taking away a little bit of the sexiness for a little bit of to not be in a state of agony for weeks and months after you realize you're not aligned? I mean, people are so afraid of talking to each other these days.
I know.
Like,
I know.
just talk.
I know. I agree. Talk, communicate, ask. It doesn't have to be a fight. It can be respectful, dignified communication. You know, yeah, respectful, dignified communication. I love that. Love that answer. The next one is, any tips on how to decide when you're ready to start dating after divorce? It's going to be a little scary, but I don't want to let that feeling keep me from dating.
Okay. That's a really, 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 really good question. I find that it's the same thing in a divorce as it is in a breakup, as it is with anything. Right? And I don't mean that to devalue what somebody is experiencing. Just hear me out. When you get divorced, that's just a more definite of a relationship than maybe a 6-month breakup. So maybe it takes a little bit longer, but the action is still the same. Okay?
Yes.
So it comes back to understanding, becoming heightened in your self-awareness, understanding what you want, what went wrong, what went right, what did you learn from this, right? Asking yourself questions. It's really making sure that you understand your self-belief. So your self-esteem, because that takes a hit after a divorce. So are you still in fear, living in fear all the time? Or are you able to move forward and make progress? Next is working on your self-confidence and making sure that you are able to understand your core values, understand your character traits, and your expectations. Because those 3 things will allow you to find a next partner, right? The combination of those 3 things is your self-worth. And with that, you can understand that, one, you're not burying your feelings anymore. You have acknowledged the memories, the pictures and everything, and you've put them behind you.
Yeah.
It doesn't trigger you to hear their name anymore. It doesn't trigger you to like think about dating anymore. And that is done through this excessive inner work. So often, just really quick sidebar, before I finish that question is, when we end in a divorce or a breakup, often the thing is like, oh, you just need to go and date again. Well, that's like step 10. You've missed 1 through 9.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, like you can't go for the end result. You gotta move up the ladder. Yeah. And you're not ready yet. So inner work first, and then the last bit, and what I was getting at is you're putting all these things behind you is the forgiveness portion. And you've embraced your new narrative, the new person that you're choosing to become, and you've given love to your old person that has left the divorce. So it's an emotional journey. And when a relationship ends, you can almost relate it to a death in a family member or something, or a friend. You're grieving. And as you grieve through it, you start to work through it. But if you don't feel your emotions, you won't heal. You can't bury them, or else you'll just live in a state of agony. So you have to be able to feel how you're feeling. Your feelings are valid. Your feelings are worth being noticed by you, and allow that to really give you the power to move forward. And at that point, once you've accepted that, now you're able to do it.
Wonderful, wonderful answer. And that happened to me. So I'm going to use myself as an example. So
Please.
Right after my divorce, I felt like, because I was already emotionally disconnected to my ex for quite a while, I felt like I was ready to start dating. So as soon as the divorce was final, I jumped onto Match.com, and I loved the attention, and all my inbox was always full. And I started a relationship almost immediately. And to my credit, I was with the guy for 4 years, but
wow.
But I hadn't healed. I'm a very monogamous person. That's the thing. I hadn't healed. He was a really nice guy, but there were a lot of issues with his kids and all of that. But I hadn't healed, to be honest. So I was still struggling with saying, I never want to get married. I never want to do this. I was still saying a lot of, I never, don't do the, So after the 4 years, I was still dating. I would go on and off Match.com. The day that I got the message from God was one day I went to church, and my pastor said, there are many people in this congregation. I believe he was talking to me, because I started crying that day. In fact, I reached out to him that I'd love to do a live with him to share my story. And he was saying that there are many people in this congregation who've been dating, and just they can't find anybody, and they're just tired. It's getting obsessive. Take some time off. He said, yes. Take at least 2 to 5 years off. And I thought to myself first, I'm like, 2 years is a long time. But Jeff, that day I got home. I was alone at church that day for good reason. I got home and I was still crying, but I wrote in my journal and I said, I'm going from today on, I'm going to close all of my online dating sites, and I'm going to take 2 years off. And I took that promise to a T. I did not date anybody for the 2 years. In fact, my daughters were like, Mom, you're getting too used to this single life. I took 2 years off, and they were amazing 2 years. I traveled the world. My business skyrocketed in profits. My books were doing well. I spoke at the United Nations 3 times. I bought my house, this house I'm sitting in. I bought my dream house. There was so much that I got blessed with during those 2 years. And at 2 years exactly, I joined Match.com back. And I believe about 6 weeks after that, Neil's profile popped up on Match. He was new to Match, because I knew all the old faces there. And I'm like, He said, oh, I'm English and I'm 6'4". And I'm like, oh, he looks nice. And I sent a message to him, and the rest is history. We dated for 2 years. We've been married since 2020.
Beautiful. I love that. Holy cow. Have you written a book about that journey?
I haven't written, well, I have written, that's my 3rd book.
I was
That's
gonna
my
say that's a
third book, which
great
is
book.
half done. My second
Yes.
book hasn't been published. That's my third book that is half done that I haven't finished. But yes, I love stories in that third book.
It's so beautiful. That's awesome. And I mean, and it's a happy, healthy marriage now for 2 years almost.
Yes, yes, two
Good for
years,
a
20,
year.
April 2020. Yeah, 2 years. 2 years. We
Wow.
married in the middle of the pandemic. Yeah, so it's, the story is, there's more to the story, but I could, because those 2 years, and I really took time to figure out who I was and what I
Mm.
wanted in a man. For the several years before, I kept saying, oh, I'm a doctor, I'm earning so much, I have to meet a guy who's really rich, who is a multi millionaire, who is a lot wealthier than me, who is
Mm-hmm.
but all of that expectation, I started reading books. I started really connecting to what I really wanted, and asked myself, I'm like, okay, you're already very financially independent. Why
Mm-hmm.
do you think you need more money? As Jeff, we need a part two of this because,
Amen. I'm ready
so,
for it.
that question she asked, I wanted you to talk about it, but then the answer you gave is my story.
I love that. It's a beautiful story.
That's my
And it's
story.
powerful because it's real.
Yes, that's my story. I took 2 years off. Thank God. Pastor Andy Stanley, if you are listening, watching this live, you changed my life. You brought the message from God to me. I listened, and that's how I met my husband.
So
So,
awesome.
yeah. So, Jeff, I want to be respectful of your time. It's been
Yeah.
45 minutes. There are probably like 100 questions left. Should we end now and do a part two, or do you want to take a couple more questions?
I can do about five more minutes.
Okay, so
Yeah, let's do it. We can
let's
still do
do
a
it.
part two too. I'm always game for that.
Of course, of course. So the next question is, can married couples be independent of themselves although they are together?
Yes, they should be. And what I mean by that is I'm going to have different interests than my wife. And often we get to this place of like, oh, like I love the movies and she doesn't, so we're not compatible. I'm like, that doesn't make you compatible or not. That's just like what you like. It's the things that matter are very few, and it's your core values. I'm going to keep saying it over and over and over again. And usually that's only 3 to 5 things. The rest of that, like I like being outside and doing garden work. My wife does not at all. Like that's my peace and alone time. I'm a better man, a better husband, a better father when I'm spent doing some things that I care about.
Yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur, a business guy. I help run our family businesses. I also run 2 businesses on the side. She has no interest in any of that. And that's okay. But she supports me completely.
Yes.
So my point is yes, you can absolutely be independent in the things that you love and the things that you like. And I think it's healthy to a lot of areas, but there's so much, but I still don't feel like I'm not completely connected to her. There's a difference between being independent and interdependent.
Yes.
And I would strive to be interdependent than combination. So that's connected together while also having your own interests and beliefs. Or passions.
Yeah, that is so key. You have to maintain some level of individuality. You guys, if you missed the beginning, I talked about that. That was one of the problems in my first marriage. I believe, I feel like I lost my individuality. So yeah, that's so important. Somebody asked, and I'm going to answer this real quick. I think she's referring to the 2-year break that I took. Jeanette, she said, but what if you're divorced in your late 40s? When can you start dating? You can be 70 years old and still take 2 years off and still meet your partner. Age is just a number. Okay, women, we always feel like time is running out for us. Time never runs out if you use it appropriately. You're in your late 40s, take 2 years off. Discover yourself. You've heard what Jeff has said here. Discover yourself, your self-confidence, your self-worth, action. Evolve, renew yourself, do the inner work, do what matters for you. It doesn't matter if you're 60 years old when you start dating. There's a man for everyone. If you're 100 years old and you want to meet a 102-year-old man, he's out there for you.
Yes, amen. I love that.
you know,
abundance.
women always think time is running out, and it's not. So I'm going to ask you the last question, then we can leave. I really want to take this one because she says, how to know if I'm ready for a relationship if someone has never been in one. I'm 23 years old. I've never been in a relationship. How do I know that I'm ready? So sweet.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
We've all been in that place. And I think, here's the kicker. You got to try. You don't really know. The things that you can do is really make sure that you know what you need and what you want. That's the only thing I'll give you is at 23 years old, we forget that we still have a voice, and we forget that we have needs and we have wants, because for most of our lives, we've been just taking care of ourselves and haven't had to articulate those to people, right? So my point is, learn how to communicate at 23. Learn how you would communicate your expectations. Learn how you would communicate how things are making you feel. Learn how to share what matters to you in a healthy relationship. And ask yourself that, what does matter to you in a healthy relationship? If you can start there, the rest is just you needing to go out and experience that. Go on some dates, get to know certain people, take some action, take some risks. Because at the end of the day, like, you have to go through experiences too. And also, the last thing I'll kind of leave you with on that is, when you're ready for a relationship, you recognize that it's not all about you. And it's like, I want a relationship because I need this, or I want this, or I want to feel this way, or I just want someone to make me feel happy. Like, no. Because when you're in a relationship, you should be filling their cup and they should be filling your cup while you're both filling your own. So it's a healthy dynamic, not a one and an other. Relationships are not 50-50, they're 100-100. And it's kind of a paradox. And so if you're thinking of it from a selfish perspective, it will end in a not so graceful way. So you'll be unfulfilled.
I love that answer. I love that answer. Women, I can see all your comments. You're all still asking me about what if, or asking us about what if I'm in my late 40s? How can I take 2 years off? What if I want kids? Guys or ladies, I was 45 when I took 2 years off. I was 45 and I started dating again at 47 or 48. Yeah, 40, just right before my 48th birthday is when I met Neil. So those of you who are thinking about wanting kids, would you want to have kids with the wrong man and end up divorced?
Good
so
question.
think about your priorities. So if you're in a rush because of fertility concerns and you want to rush to have kids, what if you end up having kids with the wrong guy and then you get divorced when your kids are like 3 and 4, you know, they're young? Think about your priorities, please, guys. It's not all about having kids. We can't just bring kids into the world without stable families. Look, I understand what my kids went through with my divorce. So I don't wish it on anyone. And they're doing well now, but they struggled and they had to go through what they needed to go through. So please. So we are done, Jeff, but please, people love you here. So do you offer coaching? How can they work with you?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please tell us.
It's not one-on-one. I offer an online course program. It's called the Self-Worth Rediscovery Roadmap. I know it's a little bit of a mouthful, but it's the only thing that kind of describes it.
Yeah.
And what I help women who have suffered a self-worth shattering breakup or experience, go from feeling scared of being alone and feeling uncertain about who they are and feeling insecure, move from there to rediscovering their self-worth, building unshakable self-belief and self-confidence, and getting them to a place where they can have happy, fulfilling, loving relationships and being completely fulfilled both personally and professionally, not questioning their self-worth again. So that I'm actually finishing a cohort in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and I'll be launching this to the public in the next 2 months. So if you're interested in a self-worth shattering rediscovery of your self-worth, that's just follow along, and I'll be sharing about that journey as we move forward. So
okay, so they should just follow your Instagram, right?
Yep.
Okay, so
Yep.
follow your Instagram, and then do you have any books that we can buy, or are you still working on your books?
Working on them. I have a children's book series that is actually kind of for adults. So it's but it's more of a children's book format, and that's coming out probably. I actually don't know a date for that. So that one is in the works. And then I have my novel that will be coming out for self-development, and that is just getting started. So that is a more so in process thing. I'm not as far ahead as you yet, doctor. I wish.
That's fine. You are doing great. You're doing marvelously. Honestly, we'll all be following along. Thank you so much. And I offer one-on-one coaching. I coach only men, though. I don't coach. I coach only women. I misspoke. I was going to say I don't coach men. I only coach women. Yeah, I don't coach men because my coaching is only one-on-one, and I chose not to coach men one-on-one. So my coaching is one-on-one. It's very high level. I deal with everything from relationships to business to self-esteem to all of those things. So you guys, we can see your questions, but we can't take all of them. So come to our DMs, send Jeff a DM, say, contact him on his DM, follow him, and you'll be able to get his online course and his books when they come out. Come to my DM if you need my one-on-one coaching. Jeff, thank you so much.
Such a pleasure.
Yeah,
thank you for having me on.
I really enjoyed this, really did. And honestly, anytime you need my help, when you publish your books and you want to come on my platform to talk to my community, or you release your online course to the public, and you want me to, release it to my community, anything you need, I'm here for you. I would love to support you in anything you need. Thank you so much.
Likewise, too. This was awesome. I really appreciate it.
I will. Thank you. And keep the wisdom going. Keep the reels coming. We love them.
You got it. Yes.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Thank you. And the replay will be on my YouTube and probably on Jeff's platforms as well. So just check into our platforms. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.